Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is gonna be the last one. I'm really sorry for the constant. To to be fair, that it takes a long time.
Well. Yeah. Guess what? I have some reporters who I deal with who are a lot worse. So it's not the. It's fun.
Okay, okay. That's fair. So anyway, we should talk about the convention, the other the first 2 nights. I haven't really watched all the parts of the convention. I only go for the roll call. That's it. I only go for the roll call. And I was surprised that, or should I be surprised that, you know, some primary delegates didn't give their delegate votes to the other presidential candidates because the primary voters didn't choose them. Though I tell to myself now that I should not be surprised that this happened now this time again. That no
Yeah. I mean,
other delegates have been announced to be allocated to the others. So yeah, it's not like really the RNC of 2016. Yeah, it's really different.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the mentality from some of the Haley delegates was, okay, Haley herself went ahead and endorsed Trump, but that's what she did, right? If you're a delegate, you're supposed to represent the feelings or the kind of attitudes of who your kind of voters were, right? And I can tell you, kind of anecdotally, I know quite a few Haley voters who voted for her in the primary, but are not going to vote for Trump in the general election. So, they kind of took it to, that's how they interpreted it. But I mean, obviously, of course, Trump won the overwhelming majority of delegates. So it's that's kind of where we are. So yeah.
Mm. And and we should also talk about the probably not surprise pick for VP as like of course it's Senator JD Vance who's the VP nominee. And my simple analysis of this is because he really he really licked his boots really hard, the former president, I mean politically. And
I mean,
I think what he said in the past, being that President Trump being an idiot, or well, no, America's Hitler, being racist or other stuff like he said there, like it was forgiven by the former president.
yeah, I think someone said this online. I'm not sure who it was, but yeah, and I kind of buy this too. I think Trump likes the idea of being able to conquer people, right? And what I mean by that is, he took someone who was very critical of him. Now, kind of, there like was that kind of moment in the 2022 campaign where this is something that not Paul Ryan, uh, uh, not who Tim Ryan made
Yeah,
a debate moment against J.D. Vance where he talked about a
yeah,
Trump rally, and Trump himself said, "Okay, well, J.D. Vance just kisses my ass, right?" And you kind of contrast that to you know, of course, the things on the Democratic side, you seem like a hot mess right now. But you kind of contrast that to Biden and the Democrats. What did it say about in 2020 when Biden chose Harris, who was one of his critics in the Democratic primary that year? So, you have Biden, who's someone who's saying, okay, well, I might value someone who has a different opinion from me or doesn't see everything. Trump goes the opposite way with JD Vance, who has been really part of that MAGA wing of the party. And I think I don't know if Vance is going to bring that much in terms of electoral help in the Rust
Yeah.
Belt because he only barely won his state in 2022. Well, barely, 6 points, which is not
Yes.
impressive by Ohio standards these days. And it was kind of funny when they were rolling out the choice. I remember there was, Trump was kind of phoning all of the candidates that he wasn't going to take. So I think it was Rubio was the first one on his short list that I think got the phone call that he wasn't going to be the choice. And, you watch some of the betting odds at that time, and after Rubio was eliminated, people were like, oh, well, it might actually be Glenn Youngkin. And I was thinking to myself, I mean, I know they just did a joint appearance in Virginia here within the past few weeks. Youngkin, he does have some maybe positive attributes to bring to the table, but I was talking to one of my friends about this, and they made a great point about Youngkin is probably Trump wouldn't like that Youngkin is taller than him. This is a which that's bad.
Yeah. If I want to say this, that Eric is probably jealous because she wants the VP nominee, but of course she went ahead to be a Senate nominee, so that's on her.
Oh,
That's
late.
on her for not.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's on her for not waiting of wanting to be VP nominee.
Well, and it's funny because this time last year, when we were kind of looking ahead to this, and just speculating about who Trump's VP would be. There was a lot of buzz about him picking a woman. He did have.
Yeah.
I mean, if he likes loyalty, I mean, he's got, I think, three. He would have had three options at least in Lake, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Stefanik, who are very loyal to him. But it's you went a different way there. So, and I think maybe one of the ways that Vance would be not as maybe beneficial as some of the other options is, if I'm a kind of more traditional type of Republican, I mean, if Trump had picked like Burgum, right, who is kind of he's lower key, right? He's, he has some he has some executive experience. He has some kind of mavericky stances, specifically on green energy. I would have liked him more, right? I would have felt more comfortable kind of settling in with Trump, but he didn't. So he picked Vance. And, maybe part of that too is, Trump may have felt that he kind of got burned in, last time with picking, Mike Pence, who was kind of more out of that traditional mold. And so he went with someone who was more ideologically aligned with him. I mean, even in 2016, I mean, if one of the great things that Pence helped Trump with was bringing evangelicals to the table, who at that time were very skeptical about Trump. And I just don't know if there's a huge block of voters that Vance would bring to the table that Trump doesn't already have, right?
Yeah, and I don't even think, I don't really believe Senator J.D. Vance would add something to the ticket.
Right,
I
right.
well, this might be not true if I will say this, but probably first time younger voters that will be going for the Republicans. I think that's I think that's what he can bring. Some young American voters that could be registered as Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's, yeah, he. I think maybe to that point. You, you know, I can remember when my generation, the millennials, used to be like the youngest generation in politics, and 10 years ago, everything was about the
Yep.
millennials, and now it's Gen Z. And I mean, really, if you're a Gen Z voter, the past three elections have featured Trump. So basically, Trump, that kind of Trumpy Republican Party is the Republican Party now. I remember, probably most of the millennials of my generation remember, Mitt Romney and John McCain and even George Bush. But, those younger Republicans very well be maybe more kind of ideologically in line with Vance and Trump. So, he's in his 30s, barely so, but he still is. So that's a bit of a contrast from the two people at the top of the ticket, or at least the two top of the people at the top of the ticket right now. We'll see what Biden ends up doing. But it kind of, just not really related to this sad at all. But I remember last year, as there was a governor race in Kentucky, and
Yeah.
I was talking to a reporter who was kind of asking me to make sense of this race, and what are what are some notable things about the two main candidates? And I'm like, okay, well, you look at Governor Bashir, who's like 45. His opponent Daniel Cameron was like 37. I'm like, oh my God, you have a race with two young guys? Oh my God, we don't get this anymore in America.
Yeah.
So,
What did you say on that reporter, by the way, about that 2023 Kentucky gubernatorial race?
Oh, we had Bashir as a favorite, which he's another one who we thought the race would be closer than it was, but Bashir ended up winning by 5 points very comfortably, especially for a Democrat in Kentucky. That's.
No, you can continue first. Then
Oh
I
yeah,
can
it's
respond to that.
I kind of remember like kind of the idea, it's been floating around a lot recently, but the idea of replacing Biden. And look, right now I'm at the point where if it's not Biden, it's going to be Harris. That's just how it is.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, of course. I would
and
agree on that. I would agree on that because Lawrence O'Donnell did said that VP Harris is entitled also to the re-election campaign funds that is
uh,
mostly donated for the president, but also, of course, donated to her as well because there's the running mates. So yeah, I would agree that VP Harris will be still the likely nominee if President Biden really decides before the convention that it's game over, guys. Like I'm gonna retire already. Even though that would put Democrats in a difficult spot, in my view. Like I said,
yeah,
it's kind of the reminiscing of the 1968. I
yeah,
mean, at
it's
least that's how I see it. I mean, others would disagree on that, of course.
well, it's funny. Like I've been talking. My girlfriend, I've been talking, I kind of, like occasionally I'll ask her what she thinks of politics. And, she watched the debate with me, 3 weeks ago. It doesn't seem like it
Yep.
was that long ago, but it was. So we sit down to watch the debates. Uh, and she sits down on the couch with me. We put it on the TV, and like about 10 minutes in, she's like, okay, Kenna, please stop watching this. This is too stressful. But anyway, so I was talking to her about this. I'm like, okay, do you think the Democrats should go ahead with Joe Biden, or you think Harris would be better? She's like, oh, no. I think if Harris gets a nomination, she'll lose. So, oh, shit, the
Yeah,
Democrats are.
well,
Uh-huh.
well, to be honest, I think she would lose. I don't wanna say this in realistic way for the VP Harris fans in online and in real life, but really believe she would lose. She's not.
She's,
I think she's not gonna win Georgia if she's the
I
nominee.
could see that. Well, yeah, like my girlfriend's like, well, how many women presidents has America elected? Zero. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Well, I think it can happen if VP Harris can be matched up to another Republican presidential nominee, more weaker than her. I think, but that
Yeah,
would probably be a that would probably a close election as well if she would be match up to a not so much known Republican presidential nominee. That's
Uh,
how I see it. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to make her weak. It's just that's just how I see it.
mhm,
I had concerns, but of course of course she did help President Biden to win because of her anti crime record that some Democratic voters didn't necessarily beloved, like arresting people for the use of marijuana because it took a long time for your country to decriminalize the use of marijuana, all of that,
mhm,
and another things that she did as California Attorney General. So I think that's how. Though I feel bad for the demonizing of VP Harris, and
mhm.
if she would be the nominee 4 years later, if President Biden wins this year, then okay, fine. Well, I don't have a say on that. I'll just say na, okay, go ahead, VP Harris be the next president, but first female caller president. Hooray!
Yeah, yeah.
If she'll get all the delegates, of
Uh,
course. I mean, that would be an interesting thing to see if she'll get most of the primary voters and primary delegates 4 years later. But of
uh,
course, we'll see.
yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, we will see. It's just, I mean, I go back and forth some days myself. I mean, I don't know what they should do. I mean, it's kind of tough because you have, my good friend Matt Isbell, who works on Democratic campaigns in Florida. He always, we always talk, and he's like, no, and at least in the races I work in Florida, all the rank and file Democrats are behind Biden. They think all this like media freak out is just confined to Twitter, and meanwhile you have Nancy Pelosi, who
Yeah,
has a good, who's very representative of where who knows her caucus well. Yeah, she's trying to get Biden out, so it's and I think part of what may be keeping Biden in this race is he's basically being told by the elites who know better, kind of chattering class in DC, that
yeah.
he needs to leave, he needs to get out of the race. But all his career he's been told that same thing from those same people. But he's
Been underestimated ever since.
right, and I think that's part of his mentality.
I think he can still, fight. I'm just worried about his mumble jumble of mixing up the words when he speaks. Because of
Yeah.
course he's taking longer to assess what he should say first. Basically, think before what you want to say to the press, to your allies, etc. That's how I see it, which is that's not bad at all. It's just, of course, some like I said, he mix up some of the words he say, which is kind of concerned. But other people, of course, I think overblown their panic.
Mm.
But
Well, I kind of look. I started when I was a kid, and I still do some days. I have some good days, I have bad days, and it's not really Biden stuttering. I think it's just age. He's just slower. I mean, it's just that's a natural thing. And Biden was a candidate who, even when he was at the top of his game, 20 years ago, he was still known as a very gaffe-prone type of politician, right? And I feel like every address he makes, every press conference he does, he's gonna make some type of gaffe or misspeak, and everyone's now gonna blow it out of proportion, right? Because they need,
mm,
okay, this is Biden in decline. Um, so yeah, it's and like I wonder like how much we can sustain that dynamic, right? So yeah, it's I mean, I can see arguments for both Biden staying and Harris taking it again over. Uh, but they have they have about a month, roughly speaking, until the DNC, so they do have time.
Though there was this news just come out yesterday from NBC that says that some Democratic officials wants to nominate President Biden in early August, probably in the first week of August. And that would be good because my concern to the convention schedule of the Democrats is why the hell would they take up more than a month? Yeah,
Uh,
more than a month.
yeah, that's been
All right, I apologize for that. Just
that's okay.
I just right. So where are we at, by the way?
Where were we? I was just kind of. Oh yeah, just about whether Biden should stay in or not. It's tough to, but
Hmm. It's gonna be a sad. No, not really a sad thing. Yeah,
uh,
I think they should carry on with it. Like make him just let him stay in the race.
mhm.
Let's see what would happen in let's see what would happen in November. Like if he lose, he loses. Like um, that's there's nothing we can do about it if he basically lose.
Yeah.
So he should have been one. Yeah, he should have just been a one-term president, but of course he wanted another shot because he was robbed with the opportunity 3 times. We both know that, which is sad. Though I wouldn't mind if he become the nominee in 2008. I think I would probably won that.
Mhm.
Probably.
Yeah. Uh huh. Well, I mean, in 2008, basically any Democrat was going to beat John McCain after the financial markets crashed in September. I mean, even 2016, I think he would have been able to beat Trump. And, I think that probably, yeah, I know that's probably something that's weighed on his thinking, right? That's probably something that pushed him to run in 2020, right? Because I think he could have been able to get the job done, but Hillary obviously didn't.
Yep. Uh, Former President Obama puppeteering the presidential primaries of 2016. Probably. No, I'm just
uh,
joking.
uh, there was just not kind of directly related to his topic, but there was just this morning there was a poll out of Emerson University, which had Trump up 2 in Virginia, but Kane was up 10, which is kind of more what you would expect. But it's I mean, if it's if Trump's up in for Virginia, that's not good for Biden either.
Oh yeah, agree. Being up in 2 points, where the state
Yeah,
on the
45
presidential
to
election
43.
have voted Democrat since I don't know when the last time the Republican won Virginia, probably 84 and 90, no, 84 only.
The
I
last
got
time a
it wrong.
Republican won Virginia was 2004.
In the presidential, oh my god.
Yeah, because Virginia used to be, actually it was one. It was for Virginia for a while was kind of seen as one of the more conservative states in the South. It was the only state in the South that did not vote for Jimmy Carter in 76. And then Obama flipped it in 08, which was big.
So do you think President Biden can maintain Virginia? I mean, I kind of hope so that he can maintain Virginia.
I mean, it kind of says something about the whole state of the campaign now that we're talking about Biden being able to hold Virginia, right? So the state won by 10 points last time. I do think that, I think of where the voters that don't like, that are voting, undecided or for Trump in the presidential race, but also for Tim Kaine in the Senate race, which, that's been true in a lot of the swing states, right?
Yeah.
Bob Casey as well. He's another one. He's often, doing much better than Joe Biden in Pennsylvania is. I just think these vote, a lot of the voters Biden is losing are kind of core Democratic voters, minorities, younger voters who are voting undecided or third party in the presidential race, but Democrat for Senate, right? So I do think a little of those voters, or maybe even a lot of those voters end up coming home and helping Biden. But so, yeah, he probably will carry Virginia, I would think, because I think of when Governor Youngkin won in 2021, just, everything seemed to be going in his favor. So I don't know if Trump can replicate that, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. Then another topic, which is again the Senate races.
Sure.
I kind of would. All right, yeah. All right, let's go to the last election cycle because I really wanna ask you this: that why do you think? Well, yeah, on the Senate and gubernatorial races of the 2022, like there was a lot of split voting for the parties in the Senate and governorship
Yeah, I mean,
because they like the incumbent. I don't know.
I think, really 2022 to me was a very state by state election. If you showed me the results, like if we were talking ahead of time, ahead of the 2022 election, and you showed me the results from California and New York, I would have thought that it was a Republican wave, right? But at the same time, Democrats held up well in a lot of the very marginal states, right? Like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, even as well. So, I think a lot of it had to do with candidate quality. In a lot of the Senate races, for instance, the Democrats were defending incumbents. The only seat that they gained was Pennsylvania, or like the only seat that changed hands was Pennsylvania, and that was another example where like Dr. Oz was just a terrible candidate. And you have in some of these races just the Democratic candidate quality was good. I mean, you had, like incumbents like Warnock and Kelly and Cortez Masto who knew their states, who were great at raising money, and you just had Republican candidates who a lot of them were kind of Trump endorsed, who
Yep.
just
Yeah.
were crap candidates. I mean, we were talking about J.D. Vance a
Except for
little earlier,
yeah.
huh?
Except for him. Except for him, he got lucky. Well,
Who was
not
it?
necessarily lucky. Senator Vance. I was
Yeah,
joking that he got lucky, but of course, Ohio is kind of a lean R now, in my view, on that statewide level.
yeah. It's well, Vance, was uh he was lucky, as you're saying, because he got that Trump endorsement. And I mean, he had Mitch McConnell's super PAC spending like 30, 40 million to save him. And it probably would have been a closer race without that. Uh, yeah, it's one second. Let me send an email really quick.
Right, sure. I was just also looking to this Medium, the website where I write my American political analysis,
Uh-huh.
and had the and I typed the results of these incumbent senators, the swings against them. And, choose- I'll show this. Alright, there it goes. So yeah, so there I listed off their swings against or
Uh-huh.
favored them, which is what how can I say this? That some of these incumbents that of course won, like I had what can I say? Like some of the results against them, or yeah, the vote percentage against them are kind of shocking, especially to Senator Schumer, where the swing of the vote is 14 points against him, and made me concerned.
Well, it's funny because Schumer, it was not a no, like if you asked me before 2022, like who are the really strong electoral overperformers in that class of senators, and I would have told you basically Chuck Schumer, Chuck Grassley, Ron Wyden, and John Hoeven, and they all got their margins reduced in 2022. They all won with
Yep,
about 56%. Hoven was a bit of a special case because he had a third party candidate challenging him in
yep,
addition
yep.
to the Democrat, but
Katrina, yeah,
who
Katrina
was
Christensen.
yes, who was running again this year, I think, against
Yep,
Kevin Kramer. But
yes,
yeah, it was really a cycle where some of those big overperformers in the Senate really kind of their kind of numbers were more straight party. Chuck Grassley did. This was the first time in maybe since he was first elected that he was not the top performing Republican in Iowa. That was Kim Reynolds, who won by a little more. And Ron Wyden, I think Jeff Merkley in 2020 did better than Wyden in 2022. I think. Don't quote me on that.
yeah,
And I mean,
probably.
even if you look at Chuck Schumer, he won by 14 points, which is not very impressive. But I mean, it was
Yep,
double what Kathy Hochul won by, right?
it's a concern for me. It really was a shock. And then I told to myself that day that, oh look, celebrities being political candidates can be a threat to the establishment political, to the actual politicians itself.
Uh,
New York Republicans, I give credit to them, getting a guy named Joe Kenyon, which I don't really know, but then of course, he got to reduce Senator Schumer's vote margins, which, like we said, he got him under 60%, which is shocking, which
one of the
concerns me that
kind of going
Correct, I
into
guess.
the 2020, yeah, I know how we had that special election in New York 3 earlier this year. One
Oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
funnier takes I saw on this was, well, this is going to be a hard seat for Democrats to flip back because Chuck Schumer didn't even carry the seat. So it just shows
Oh
you how
my God.
bad the results were for New York Democrats in 2022.
So do you think Senator Gillibrand would do better?
I would think so. Although, yeah, I know she's from upstate, so she may have a little more pull there. But New York, I think, could be another state where yes, that special election earlier this year was a good result for Tom Suozzi, but I don't know how much the New York Democrats have kind of got their shit together basically since 2022. So
Yeah.
um, I would expect Gillibrand to win by more than 15 points, 14 points, whatever Chuck Schumer won by. But we'll see. I mean, it's a state that really one of the trends that we could see this year is maybe Trump adding votes in blue states like California and New York, but not, but Biden and the Democrats still being competitive in the swing states. So that could make for a dynamic that's like 2022, where that could help with the bias in the Electoral College. Um, but we'll see. I just don't know if Democrats have fixed some of their problems in New York. It's just been a tough state. It's been less blue than you would think, which has been funny because it started to trend a little. At least New York City started to trend a little more Republican for Trump, like when he moved from there, when he went to Florida, when he left there. So that's been interesting. But yeah, we still have both New York for the Electoral College and for the Senate is safe down Democratic. So I mean, Biden's going to win it. It's just it's just a question of how much.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I was typing the initial predictions of mine on those states, though I
Mhm.
still haven't got to finish it. Oh, clarification that little thing of mine where I'm typing the initial results that doesn't have any scientific basis. I'm just in my it's just in my gut vibe. It's like
Uh,
how I got the Senate and the governor election. Yeah, I mean election predictions right 2 years ago. At
well,
first, I read.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I first started kind of following national politics, have you heard of Dave Leap's election atlas? Uh,
No, I don't. I
okay,
don't.
well. That's a recommendation I'm going to make. It's a great site. I mean, it has all sorts of historic election data. There's a forum too. But anyway, back in 2010, they had this thing where you could make predictions, and this was in 2010 when I was 18 years old in college, and in 2010
I was 7.
I predict. You're making me feel old now, but in 2010, guess what? I got every Senate race right. I predicted every Senate race right, even the ones like Harry Reid and Lisa Murkowski. And you know what my joke has been? It's okay. Well, I got everything right in 2010. It's been all downhill since then.
Oh yeah, I also want to hear about your the thing about your being turkey on in the past about the North Carolina and how they Republicans and how they fucked the state through the help of Karl Rove. I mean
Yeah.
indirect help, but
So, North Carolina, one of the kind of more interesting articles I've written was after the 2020 election. It was sort of an upset when Tom Tillis ended up keeping his seat, because if you looked at polls, and I will say, my favorite senator of all time is Kay Hagan, because I met her several times. Hold on, let me get you something.
Right, right.
Back when I was first getting into making electoral maps, she would sign these maps for me. You could kind of see Kay Hagan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's and so for me, 2014 was a very rough year, losing both her and Mary Landrieu. Um,
yep.
and and it's funny now, 10 years later, where I used to hate Tom Tillis and Bill Cassidy, worse than Trump. They were like my bad guys because they beat my favorite two senators in 2014. And now, those are both kind of more of, both Cassidy and Tillis are kind of more of the same Republicans now, right? They're the ones who are, have not gone full on Trump and MAGA, right? So, I've come to respect them more now. But in 2020, it was an upset when Tom Tillis ended up winning. So, and if you remember, in 2020, there was this kind of late breaking scandal where Cal Cunningham was like texting this woman who was his wife. And so anyway, I wrote an article in early 2021. I was looking at the results, and I basically came to the conclusion that the scandal was not what cost Cunningham. He was going to lose anyway. If you looked at,
it's like you said before.
because he ran a little behind Biden. Even Roy Cooper, he was, who was popular. If you looked at most polling, you had Governor Cooper on track to win by 10, 15 points in public polling. He only wins by 4.5. So it was, going to be like it was a state that was worse for Democrats than a lot of people expected. So anyway, I write this article basically saying, Cal Cunningham scandal didn't really matter. And had a few arguments, and I published my piece. The next day, I get an email from Cal Cunningham, and which is funny because we had been friends on Facebook for several years before that. But as you know, that's not real. Like I don't personally know all my friends on Facebook, right? So, and he sent me this email saying, "Oh, Miles, if you'd like, I have some thoughts on your article. So if you'd like to have, get together and have a call
Private conversation
in next week, feel free." And so, like, I took him up on his offer, and we had a nice hour-long phone call, and he's a nice guy. I feel like in terms of what his scandal was, I feel like Trump has done things that were much worse, but he's still around.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, one of the things he told me is if you looked at because in North Carolina there is a very big early and absentee mail-in vote. And their team was looking at the data, and even the Republicans were saying this as well, that the Republicans, usually in American politics, kind of the trend is, at least since the pandemic, is Democrats do better in early voting than on election day. And they were looking at the early vote that was coming in, and even the Republicans were like, we don't think we can win this. The kind of Democrats have such a big advantage in the early vote. And what happened was Trump, he got, basically Trump told all his people to vote on election day, and
Yep.
Trump got, I did the numbers, but if you just looked at the mail-in and in-person early vote, Biden would have won that, but Trump got 65% of those who went on election day, and that's what got him across the line in North Carolina. That's what kind of pulled Tom Tillis across the edge as well. Basically Trump, he has not been helpful to the Republicans when he's been off the ballot, like in 2018 and 2022. But when he's been on the ballot, he's had some effects like that. We'll see if this year's any different. But one of the things I remember Cal Cunningham telling me, and I think this is true, is historically there's been a very big difference between a change election and a kind of static election, right? In like a change election, you have those independent voters and the ones who are less engaged in politics, so they kind of come and vote kind of against whoever's in power, right?
Yeah.
In New England, that's exactly what happened, right? You had a lot of people who were basically fed up with the Republicans, and they went to Obama in big numbers. And like in 2012, that was a good example of a kind of static election where, I think of a lot of the low propensity voters in states like Iowa or Pennsylvania, where they either kind of begrudgingly backed Obama or they just stayed home, right? But in 2020, it was weird because a lot of the infrequent voters they voted because it was a very high turnout election, but they stuck with the incumbent who lost. So it was an odd election in that sense. But he was he was very gracious with very gracious with his time. See, as I mentioned earlier, I have a bit of a stutter like the president. But and it was funny because I thought that when he first asked me about talking, I'm like, okay, well, I'm basically giving him a get out of jail free card because, so like, of course he's going to agree with my conclusion because, how many times since the election has he probably heard, oh, well, if you had just kept it in your pants, you would have won that seat, right? And I'm saying it didn't matter. He could do whatever he wants with his pants, right? So, but that
Why?
a lot of good reasons.
But why do? But why did he but why did he lose? Okay, like it still baffled me. Like I was really hoping he would win in case that the Georgia Senate elections didn't come in favor to now Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock, or more like Senator Ossoff only. Because
Yeah.
it still baffles me to stay.
Well, I mean, he basically, as I said, he basically blamed it on just Trump got a very good turnout on election day. And I mean, this is something I looked at. So, like in North Carolina, they elect 10 offices statewide, right? There's, governor, treasurer, auditor, lieutenant governor, all that. There was not a single Republican incumbent who lost. So Tillis kind of fit with that, and even some of the Democrats who won, like Josh Stein for attorney general, like he only barely won by like half a point or something like that. So I mean, it was still and this is something he said, which I think was right as well. North Carolina. If you think of the whole electoral college, it's a state that the Democrats would like to have, but it's not essential. They really need Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin more than they need North Carolina.
Carolina.
But for the Trump campaign, they needed to win North Carolina. So that's why they spent a lot there and invested a lot there. So it was just, more of a must-win state for the Republicans. I think that's why.
Well, it is a must-win state, but it's also their biggest prizes. Texas, Florida, North Carolina. I consider them the Republicans' biggest prizes in terms of
Uh-huh.
the electoral, of course, in terms of the electoral votes of the
Uh-huh.
states. While I consider it in the Democrats, of course, the blue wall, Michigan,
Uh-huh.
Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Mm.
So at least in the north. Well, in the other part, I think I would consider Arizona as well as the Democrats' must-win state. I mean, I can be wrong, but
Uh, EJ, I'm just getting a call. Is it okay if we cut this a little short this time? We go a little under the hour. I can
yeah, yeah, sure,
come
sure.
back next week or whenever, and we can keep talking about the electoral college. But I'm sure we'll have more developments then, right? So